Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Wake Up Workday Morning Show. I'm your host, Tony Gilfillan. I am joined with Millie Doggy Brown, and we are going to jump into the things I find interesting in the world of tech today. All right. So CES is still going on. I thought this was pretty interesting. If you are a fan of IKEA, they are revamping their donut lamp into a smart donut lamp. So $100 gets you a smart lamp that can, I'm assuming, change different colors and hook up all to all your smart home stuff. So that's pretty interesting. 8-bit Dio, I actually use their gaming controllers. They are releasing a mobile version for iPhone and Android. This is pretty cool. Hooks into your little Type C at the bottom and then flips up into like a little Nintendo controller. Looks like that's coming in summer. Ford is coming out with their cheapest electric truck that is pretty amazing. I don't think I've ever seen an electric truck for around 30,000. All the electric trucks today are upwards of 60 to 100 grand. So that's pretty crazy that if they're able to actually deliver on a $30,000 truck. Stack Overflow is in free fall. This is super sad for me as a developer that has been around for a while. This used to be kind of the lifeline for developers back in the day before the advent of AI. So this is not a shocking number, but it is kind of sad that they've lost 80% of their question volume in recent years. So Stack Overflow might not be a thing coming soon. This was pretty cool. So, John Hopkins did a study on AI models and how to make them a little bit more less less intrusive for data consumption and energy. So, rebuilding how models actually learn based on actual brain biology. It goes into really in depth on why this is actually important, but basically using the actual biology of the brain to train models versus just large data sets might actually create a new way of training models that can save quite a bit of energy and compute power. So that would be pretty massive, given that that's kind of the big barrier these days is that everything needs more compute power. These massive data centers with nuclear power plants are needing to be built. So anything that makes that easier is going to definitely help all these AI systems in the long run. I saw this pretty cool article about interviewing different coding folks. So this was a really simple question, basically asking them to solve this problem. And the funny part is that there's a hidden equal sign in here. If you guys do this in your head, basically the result is going to be -1 or 1, excuse me. And if you copy and paste this, it actually has a hidden equal sign in there. So when you copy and paste it into an AI, it gives you the wrong answer. So a lot of folks, AI or candidates are basically dumping this into ChatGPT and Reflex, and it gives them the wrong answer. So pretty interesting way to trick people when they're doing these simple coding exercises for interviews. And last, in the Workday side of things, Trigger integration component actually just got released today, so that is pretty sweet. We'll actually touch on that right after this, and then we'll jump into the side project after that, because I think this is a super cool component that can definitely be used in a variety of different ways. I will link this forum post as well as this video that demonstrates it in the description of this live stream. So if you're watching this on the recording, definitely check those links out. All right, let's go ahead and jump over and take a look at this trigger integration component before we jump into our regular scheduled side project. So we're going to go ahead and create an integration app. Go back to here. I'm going to create an integration app from scratch. I'm just going to name this trigger integration component. And let's edit. So I find this to be super interesting because you're able to basically APIify any integration. So if you want to be able to trigger any of these integrations via API, I mean, this is a really slick way to do it. So we're going to create a Workday integration system. Sorry, let's create an extend app so we can actually hit this from a separate API. Oh, Slate claims to build a truck for 20K? That's crazy. Let me look that up real quick. I'm very interested. I've always wanted a truck. I have a minivan right now. I love the Honda Odyssey. Slate truck. Customizable EV. That's cool. Yeah, this can be. Oh, yeah. So it's modular, so you can do basically anything you want. I'm assuming the base model is the 20,000. Interesting. That's cool. All right, back to our app. Trigger integration sample. So this component, you can use this in Orchestrate or in Extend app orchestrations. It's available for both. You can essentially use it to trigger any integration off of your orchestrations. You can also trigger it underneath sub orchestrations as well. 1980s Ford Ranger. I knew a buddy in high school that had one of those. Trigger integration. So once you have your orchestration, you will find, oh, this is a synchronous orchestration. I can't do that because it needs to wait for that to come back. So let's go ahead and create another orchestration. I need to create an async. It's chewing on my desk. Stop. So you do need to have either an asynchronous orchestration because if you're synchronous, it has to wait for the response, and the integration framework doesn't really do the response, so it can't continue on. So you need to have the asynchronous, so it's able to basically trigger it and keep going. So all you really need to do is drop that trigger business process in there, and then your target ID here is going to be your orchestration. This is actually easier when you're doing this in an integration app as well. So if we look, so when you're triggering a business process, you essentially can trigger it by identifying it using the WID off of in this target ID. Let's show you the other way to do it, and that's via integration app. I'm sure there's still some running today. Ford Rangers just were champions. Here, if I drop my trigger integration, you'll see it is a little bit different than when you have it in an asynchronous orchestration. I actually have the ability to connect to my tenant here, whereas when it's in an asynchronous orchestration, you have to specify the ID and ABP name. Here we can go and just link this. So link this to my tenant. It's quite a bit simpler when you're actually doing this with a integration app. So the orchestration bit, and then we can link it to any integration system that's within our tenant. I have quite a few in here. Let's just pick one here. I have some time off ones that are. So it does everything for you, connects everything together, and I just grabbed that from that drop down, and now this integration is linked to the integration that lives on my tenant. If there was any parameters, but it doesn't look like there's any parameters for this particular integration, you can essentially create those here. You can adjust the auth if the auth on your integration needs to be different than your default Workday API. You can adjust, if your document attached to the actual integration event is needs adjusting, or adjusting tags, that kind of thing. You can change these here, and then just your average launch settings, and that's pretty much it. I can probably deploy and run this by just deploying it to my tenant, and then I'll just run it in the tenant itself. So pretty cool way to basically chain all these integrations together. Absolutely. I honestly, I love doing this. This is kind of gives me a half an hour in my day to just kind of play around with things. So thank you guys for watching. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. So then if we jump over to our tenant, all we need to do is create an integration system for our orchestration. Using that orchestration integration template. And then we just need to plug up these orchestration name and application ID. So how to get access to a developer tenant if you don't already have access to one. Currently, if you're not within a partner or a customer that has a tenant, unfortunately, there's not really a way for basically any other developer to jump in and grab one, but we're actually currently working on that. We announced at Rising a few months ago that we are opening our developer program, and that is 100% true. We're just kind of working on all the nuts and bolts to actually open it up to all of the unaffiliated developers that don't currently belong to a customer or a partner. So stay tuned on that one. We are working on getting access for everyone to be able to just play with Workday Extend and orchestrations and all that good stuff. So to get this integration system functioning, all we got to do is configure these integration attributes. And we jump over to app real quick so I can grab the reference ID. That's going to go in this field. And then the orchestration name, which we'll pull directly from our orchestration, which is this integration int async. Or I'm sorry, this is our asynchronous orchestration. I need to do our one that we did Trigger integration. There it is. So you can pull this name from a multitude of places. You got your basically your app overview. If you navigate into your actual orchestration itself, it'll be here. And then I believe you're actually also able to pull it off of just the apps page on the dev site. So right here is that integration name that we also grabbed from the last page as well. So we have the orchestration name, we have the app reference ID, and clicking OK. Now all I got to do is run it. I don't 100% know what the integration I grabbed does, but I'm assuming it's going to kick off something time off related. So it looks like it was expecting some sort of input document that I ran into an error on, but it did run the integration because I definitely didn't have any other steps in my integration besides triggering that one. So as we can see, it did trigger off that integration. Pretty easy to set up, very easy to kick off within your tenant. The other side of the thing is going to be those the actual async integration that I was mentioning, this with the target ID and ABP name. This is a little bit more involved. You got to pull some stuff from the tenant and then again deploy this, and I'd have to test that with Postman. I don't want to waste your guys' time with me messing with Postman. But pretty cool stuff. Again, I will link the full video from our forum that has the demo. This is a Vimeo hosted, so even if you're not on the developer forum, you'll be able to watch this video. And then we're actually releasing, in conjunction with this, a sample app for the trigger integration component. So check that out as well when that comes out later this week. Alrighty, now let's jump over to my little side project. And that was my little 3D printer app, where we ran into a bit of a snafu yesterday with Claude was not cooperating with me. And today I did get it running. So Claude did fire up my Java, it did fire up my virtual environment, and it did fire up all of these API endpoints. So we can do a number of things now that is connected to my printer. I have not tested these yet. I only tested the health. So we can just run this real quick. If I just drop this into a browser, it'll basically hit that API. Printer is connected. The status is healthy, which is true. My printer is on, so that is correct. The next thing I want to essentially test and not break anything is actually adding a print job to my actual printer. So I was looking through the README here, and all I really need is a file name and then the G code, which is effectively what the printer needs to know how to print on my printer. So that should be easy to grab. I just need to essentially pull this off of my printer and then slap it into my API. But I want to first test, because we did set up our little stub application yesterday on the Workday side of things to see if, not to see if anything, because we pivoted. We essentially were setting up the stub application on the Workday side of things. Now I just want to test hitting this API from Workday, and then we can get into pushing actual prints to my printer from Workday. Let's jump over to the Workday side of things. So we already had that set up. Got too many windows open. Go. All right. So printer app. I'm going to leverage this send 3D print orchestration I was messing with. discard that. So you'll get a lot of messages when you're messing with your either app builder or orchestration builder at the same time. They tend to get out of sync when you're deploying things on the app builder side of stuff and you don't do any deploys on the orchestration side. Then your builders get out of sync, and then it thinks that your one of the two is out of date. So say I deploy changes on the 3D app on the app builder side of things, and I still have my orchestration builder open at the same time. It's essentially going to think that my orchestrations are out of date, even though they're technically not. So just hitting discard will effectively refresh your page with what's out on App Builder. So when you click Save and Deploy on your App Builder side of things, it's going to save to App Hub, which is essentially the Workday hosting for all of your applications. And then on the orchestration builder side of things, it still thinks you're on that previous version technically. So when you hit discard, what I just did, it's essentially going to pull down the most recent version of the app from App Hub. And even though you didn't push any new orchestration side of things, it's just going to be in sync and think that the versions are equal at that point. So don't think that pushing discard is going to like lose information, because unless you did do changes, if you're making changes on both, so say you're making changes on the app builder side of things, and then you're also making changes on the orchestration builder side of things, and you deploy one but not the other, then you still have unsaved changes. If you push save, so let's test this real quick. So say I drop in my send HTTP request. This is going to be that call to that health status. So I'm going to not deploy this. I'm not pushing this out. I'm not saving it. It's just sitting in my browser, in my cache on my browser itself. And then let's say I make a little change over here on the app builder side of things. I'm just going to drop in, I don't know, we'll throw in just another column here, the test column. Get there real quick. I didn't break anything. And I'm going to push this change out with App Builder. So this is now going to push my app, including my orchestrations, out to App Builder and save it. Now, I didn't push from my other tab here, even though I do have changes that I want to keep saved. So after this builds and deploys, I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So now this is deployed and is successfully deployed out of my tenant. And if I switch back over to this app, it saved my session. You'll see up here, my session is saved, but the app is technically still out of sync here. So if I deploy it now, it won't overwrite my app builder stuff. It's essentially just going to upload a new version of my app that has this sync here. So I definitely do need to push this. If I give this enough time, it's going to tell me give me that error message that says your session is out of sync with what's on App Hub. Do you want to save or discard? If you hit save, it's basically not going to keep what's here. But if I hit discard, it's basically going to get rid of this step for me and any other changes that I were to make in there. So I do want to just be cognizant that it's you're working in a web browser here. It's not an actual builder on your local machine that is in sync with each other automatically. You actually have to be a little bit cognizant when you're working on orchestrations and app changes at the same time. So just be aware of that when you're pushing stuff out and saving it. So then here, say I want to save this, all you have to do is deploy, and I don't have to worry about overwriting my stuff from App Builder. Yeah, there it is. So essentially, this is telling me that I have changes out on App Hub, and that if I discard this session, it's going to lose everything that I did. I want to resume my session and then save and deploy, so I don't lose this step that I dropped in there. and then the changes that I made within it. So it's going to save my session, redeploy my orchestrations, and then I won't lose either my app builder stuff or my orchestration builder stuff. But if you, on the flip side of that, if you don't want to keep those changes, all you have to do is hit discard, and it's going to bring down that latest version that was recently deployed on AppHub. The big thing there is if you're working in a multi-developer environment, so you have like 4 or 5 people working on this app, you just have to be cognizant of not overwriting other people's stuff when you're pushing out. Kind of give people a heads up, because there's not, unfortunately yet, little teaser there, we are working on a multi-developer environment where you can hook up a GitHub repository to these environments, but that's not yet. It is coming, but currently you do have to just be cognizant when you're working with multiple developers that you're not overriding each other's work. This is taking a minute. I'm going to just go ahead and hit reload here to see what happens. I don't think it has actually saved yet. So my cache definitely kept my session. I'm going to try to just deploy it again. I'll probably get that error message, honestly, again from AppHub saying that I have a ongoing session that is not in sync with my AppHub version. Actually, and this API is actually going to blow up because my app lives out on the cloud, and that URL is localhost, and it's definitely not on my local machine. So this is definitely going to explode. So if I run this, I pretty much guarantee it's going to come back with an error. Well, I didn't actually output anything, but if I check the run logs, and once these logs come back, that's definitely going to hit like a 404 or a 500 not found. Yeah, there it is. Only secure URLs. Oh, but that's not even a secure URL. HTTP. Definitely have to have the secure HTTP request when you're doing any request in orchestration. That's just standard to security. But we do know this localhost does work because I did hit it locally. So next time on our show tomorrow, we will get into actually pushing a real print into my printer. I'll get a G-code ready. That's just simple stuff on my actual slicer. I won't waste your guys' time with. Basically, what it does is you pull up a 3D model, tell it you're wanting to print it on your printer, and then it produces a little G-code file for you, and then that is what gets actually pushed to the printer itself. And we will use that to hit this API and actually send something to the printer from Workday. All right, well, thank you guys for joining me, and we'll see you tomorrow.